Welcome everybody to an impromptu edition of Cage My IQ. Today we're going to be previewing UFC Fight Night Overeem versus Volkov. Joining me today after the promo video will be a friend of the brand, Jim DeLulo from Active Geek Productions. Welcome to the podcast, Jim.
Hey, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. For the listeners that don't know, why don't you tell them a little bit about your podcast that you've been doing for the past couple of years?
Yeah, I've been doing a podcast with my buddy Chuck called the Active Geek Podcast. We do it every Wednesday. We're doing a podcast called Wanda Watch after WandaVision every Saturday. We've been doing it for about 5 years now, and we talk everything geeky, movies, comics, all the news. And then there's a sci-fi podcast with my buddy Tom, Galaxy Wars podcast every Sunday. And we review movies, TV, and shoot the breeze.
Yep, and then a great thing about you is you're also an avid MMA fan like me, so it's great to have you on for this impromptu edition. I decided let me put out more content, so right before tomorrow's fight night, I wanted to get this out for the fans. So
yeah, I mean, listen, Dana White's putting out content almost every week since pandemic. It's you got to follow suit, right?
Yep. So let's get started with the first fight on the main card, which is a lightweight division matchup between Carlos Diego Ferreira versus Beneil Dariush.
Yeah.
And then I'll bring up their stuff right here. You got Diego Ferreira, who is 36, and then he has a 74 reach, and his record is 17-2 against Beneil Dariush, who is 31, and he has a 72 reach advantage with a 19-4-1 record. How do you feel about this opening fight for the fight night card?
This fight could start off this card could start off with fireworks. Like these two have fought. They fought in 2014, where Dariush got the better of Ferreira. But since then, Ferreira's been on a 6-fight win streak. He last subbed Anthony Pettis, who's no slouch in the cage at all. And then Dariush is also 5-0 his last 5, and he's got wins over Thiago Moises, Drew Dober, Frank Camacho, Jakar Close, which just won the comeback fight of the year, and Scott Holtzman. So I think this is going to be fireworks because these two guys are so well versed in all facets of the game that it could go literally anywhere.
Yeah, I look at this matchup, I did my research, and just like you said, they both fought each other in 2014, where Dariush won that one, and of course it's 7 years ago, so both of them have been on different paths. What's crazy about this is they both have a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu background, so basically, to me, it cancels out their ground game because both of them are strong there. And then, to me, it becomes a stand-up matchup, which is where they tend to be a little bit different. Ferreira is more of a wild puncher. He throws like crazy, but then when he connects, it's a little bit more powerful, where Beneil Dariush is a little bit more crisper with his shots. But the one thing with this matchup where I feel like it could change compared to where it was last matchup is Dariush has a tendency to get knocked out now. Like his chin is a little sketchy, and I feel with this matchup, I think Ferreira will get that revenge, and I feel like he's going to get a second round knockout because of the sketchy chin of Dariush, and then he's going to continue his hot hand because I believe Ferreira is on a 5-fight win streak. I believe it is
6.
6.
Yeah.
Whereas Dariush has been hanging around that 10 rank spot for the longest time. He tends to win, and then he right before he gets on the streak, he'll lose, but then he'll start back up. So for me, I have Ferreira by second round knockout. And where did you say you had this going?
Dariush is his chin isn't as sketchy as we think it is. If you go back and you watch the fight with Jakar Close, who's a striker as well, he was out on his feet, but he came back and he knocked out Jakar Close. The thing is, it kind of reminds me, Fajeda kind of reminds me of Brunson, where Brunson has a very rangy kind of wild man fight, a tendency to fight. And he tends to get clipped. If you go in there with your head down and just throwing fists, all you need is one counter shot. So as much as I like Fajeda, I think he is a killer. I'm going to go with Dariush. I think I'm going to ride the hot hand. I know they're both on 5+ win streaks, but I'm going to go with Dariush.
Yeah, this is my sneaky fight of the night pick right here, just because the same jiu-jitsu background. They both are strikers. Like this one could go either way, and then this could go all 3 rounds. You just don't know with how hot they both are.
Yeah.
So which is great. I want to see this fight night open up with them on the main card with a bang. So I'm hoping for fireworks right here.
I think you're gonna get them. This is gonna be a good fight.
Yeah. So moving on to the next one, which is actually a featherweight matchup between Cody Stamann against Askar. If you don't know who Askar is, one thing, his name is the same first as it is last name, but
anybody who comes in with the same name first and last, he's a bad man.
Yep,
bad man.
Yep, but he's making his debut in the UFC. He's actually he took this fight on short notice, and then I believe he's from you said the LFA.
Yeah, I think he last fought in the LFA in October.
How do you see this fight going?
This is a tough one because the late notice with Askar just stepping in, and he's going up against Stamann, who has been going up against some really good competition lately. He went up against Rivera his last fight. It didn't go his way. It's been 2-2-1. He has that draw with Song Yadong, and he's beat Brian Boom Kelleher. He beat him in June, who isn't a slouch at all. Kelleher's got fireworks in his hands, and I'm going to go with Stamann. He's going to ground him. He's going to ground Askar for a while, and if it goes to defeat, Stamann's got those powerful leg kicks, and he's going to leave welts. So I'm going to go with Stamann.
Yeah, he obviously is the huge favorite because he's been in the UFC, whereas Askar is just making his debut. Yeah. Stamann has a solid wrestling background where he's going to want to. The first thing he does is take down Askar. He wants to get into the ground and pound and ground control game because when you stand up, like he's a wrestling background, so he doesn't want to stand up and get caught in a bad situation because Askar's his striking isn't even that bad. But to me, this should be a clean cut decision victory for Cody Stamann, where he just uses his wrestling background and strength, gets Askar down as much as possible, and just does the ground and pound and wear him out. Because if they're standing up, things could go anyway, and if Stamann were to get caught, he could lose this fight. You never know. But for me, I have Stamann by decision victory.
One thing we need to look at, though, with Askar, as much as I'm going with Stamann, is his takedown defense is really good. And plus, he's got that 4-inch reach advantage or 5-inch reach advantage.
Yeah.
So he could be rangy the whole time and like dodge those shoots and just use his length and use leg kicks and, I wouldn't go flying attacks because then that just puts you in a really rough predicament. But he can just use his range to his advantage, and he could negate the ground game and the ground plan for Stamann.
Yeah, one of the keys in the notes for him was, just like you said, to keep on moving. As long as Askar can keep moving and dodge those takedowns, he should be in decent form, knowing that if the Stamann's bread and butter is the takedown, as long as he can keep it standing up, he'll have a really good chance of getting his striking going. And then when you do that, if he catches Stamann at all and gets him just seeing stars, that kind of takes away the ground game, and then it's 50-50 shot for either guy.
Yeah.
But as long as Stamen gets the ground game going, I think this is an easy decision to be going with him.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why he's a 400 underdog, right?
Yep. But moving on to the third fight, we've got Alexander Pantoja against Mavel Kape, I believe his name is, in the flyweight division. You got
Yeah.
them right here. He's another guy, Kape, making his debut, coming from Ryzen, where he was a champion there. How do you see this going?
This is, you said Fajeda and Dariush was your underdog for fight of the night. This is my underdog for fight of the night. Pantoja's looking to get back. He lost his last fight. He's 3-2 in his last fight with one loss to the champ. So he wants to get back up to that rematch. He's hungry. He wants to get back to championship status. Whereas Cape is he's a former champion, but he's a beast. He's a wild fighter, but he's got great hands, great takedowns. I'm thinking this goes very early into the second round with Cape knocking him out.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I like that. I like the shocker. I look at this and I see, just like you said, Pantoja has lost 2 straight fights. And then you wonder, if he's lost 2 straight fights, why is he still ranked in the top 5? I believe at 4 or 5.
Yeah.
It's because those 2 losses were to Figueiredo and Askarov, both guys in the top 5. So even though he lost to 2 big guys in the division. Both these guys are lethal strikers, but the edge and strength I give to Pantoja, where he can try and edge out a victory. Like Cape is where he could stand up, but he's making his debut. There's a little bit of unknown with him. So even though they're both with the solid striking games, I got to give the edge to the guy that's been in the UFC, who has been battle tested there. He's fought 2 of the top guys in the division, and even though he lost, he still has that battle tested mentality there. Well, I give him the edge, but I still think it's going to be like a decision. But I wouldn't be surprised if Cape were to catch him because of the 2 fight losing streak. Maybe Pantoja tries and finish him quickly, and then he's still feeling the effects of losing, and he wants to get on that winning, back on that winning mentality as soon as possible. He might slip up his game plan, and then Cape could catch him.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, there's also like that fear I feel for fighters sometimes where in the UFC, if you're knocking on 3 straight losses, you're worried about getting cut. And we know that Dana last year, early December, said we're going to cut like 40 people, and then shockingly cut Yoel Romero. They just cut Antonio Carlos Jr. They're cutting a lot of people, and there's a lot of people on this fight card that have 3 straight losses, 2 straight losses. Pantoja could go in there very cautious, and we might not see a strike first Pantoja. He might go in there a little worried, and that's where Cape can capitalize.
Yeah, you got Woodley and Junior Dos Santos, who have both lost 3 or 4 straight, and then they're still in UFC. And then Woodley's actually supposed to be headlining a fight night in April. So
against Luke.
Yeah, against him.
I saw something online that said that Woodley is 1 loss away from a Bellator championship contract.
Yeah, that was funny. I saw that we were actually talking about that in one of my group chats about that, and then it just made me laugh so hard because it's so true.
Yeah, really
because he's so he is so good, but he's gotten away from his game altogether. Like, he's a guy that it's in his head.
Yeah,
because he tries to use this instead of using his wrestling.
And he doesn't even use his punches anymore.
Yeah, he seems to be too content and too content, where he should be on point. He should be moving. He should be fearing that he's going to lose, and then just go for it. And then instead of being too scared and to feel like he's risking too much, because at this point it's like if you're getting too scared, you might as well just pack your bags
Yeah,
because you're not doing too much. The whole Covington fight, and then even Burns,
yeah. Burns
you
was a rough one.
yeah, he didn't do too much. He
Yeah,
just stayed back and he looked too relaxed. And then Burns and Covington both took it to him. I thought the Burns one was so crazy because
yeah,
he beat him even more than Usman beat him when Usman took the title from him.
yeah.
It
It's
was
tough for him, man.
yeah,
I don't think the love's there anymore.
yeah. But getting back to the predictions that we got right here, the next fight is Clay the Carpenter Guida against Michael Johnson in the lightweight division. This is a very intriguing matchup with two guys that one who's been on like a bad streak in Johnson compared to another guy in Clay Guida who's been a mainstay in the UFC for the longest time. As you see, he's 35-20 compared to Michael Johnson, who is 19-16, and Clay Guida is 39. So I think any fight now he could be retiring. I thought he was going to retire a couple of years ago, but he's kept on going. Where in his last matchup he fought what was it, Green,
Yeah, Bobby Green.
Bobby Green, and then to me that didn't look too well to me, to be honest.
Yeah.
But where do you see this going?
So this is kind of, I've dubbed this kind of like the gatekeeper fight. You know what I mean? They're both on the ends of their careers, and they're both two guys that I alluded to earlier that are knocking on three straight losses, and in Michael Johnson's case, four straight losses. You know, he's Michael Johnson has lost to Moises, Stevie Ray, Josh Emmett back to back to back. He hasn't won a fight since 2018, but he doesn't fight as often as like we're used to now. We're seeing a bunch of people like Kevin Holland who are fighting like 5 or 6 times a year, where Michael Johnson is really taking his time. Clay Guida, on the other hand, is 2-3 his last five. Lost to Bobby Green, who was riding a hot 2020, and a loss to Jim Miller, another guy who's kind of at the end of his career. Clay Guida hasn't won since 2019 when he beat BJ Penn. So there's definitely a drive for these two. I think that either if this is their last fight, let's say it's Clay Guida's last fight, he wants to go out on a high note. He wants to win.
Yeah.
And if Michael Johnson ever wants to get back to, fighting former champions or current champions like Khabib, he needs to beat somebody. And beating Clay Guida, who, like you said, has been a staple in the UFC forever, is a good way to get the ball rolling. So I'm going to go with Clay Guida. Actually, I love Clay Guida, as hard as it is to say his name fast. I love him, and every time he fights, it's a gift. So I'm going to go with him. Michael Johnson, I like him as well, but I'm going to go with Clay Guida in a decision.
Yeah, just like you said with this matchup, this is like you go this way, you go that way. Where if you win, you're solid. You get that win, and then you're going up. You're going in the upright direction because they're both kind of at the bottom, in my opinion. But if you lose, I feel like for Michael Johnson, he'll be getting his walking papers, like you said, because he's been on the wrong side of decisions in fights for a few years now. Whereas Clay Guida, if he loses, I could just see him retire
Yeah,
right afterwards because he's getting old right now. But the difference in this fight to me is Guida, he's what you call a grinder. He does whatever he can, stand up, take down. He grinds. Like at this state, nothing with his arsenal is going to really overpower you or like frustrate you. And then the difference maker with me is Michael Johnson. He's a rhythm striker. As he gets going and as he gets punching, he gets stronger. He gets more confident, and then he gets those combinations going. So if you get to Johnson early, you can get him out of that. But if he gets that game that striking going early, it gets confidence. Kind of like Derrick Henry in football, where he gets a rhythm going as they hand the ball off to him. They want to get him 25, 30 carries a game. As he gets going, he gets going. He just gets people out of the way. By like carry 10 to 15, he's going. He's got that rhythm. He's got it going. Michael Johnson's the similar way, but guys tend to get him before he gets started. That's the game plan. You get him, you get at him before he gets going. You saw him actually. He got Habib good in the matchup early on. He was able to hit him and then knock him down, but then Habib got up and then stopped the rhythm and then got his ground game going and then basically dominated from there on. But he's been able to get guys like that, and then who's the guy that he fought before that?
He fought Gaethje. He was the welcome party to Gaethje.
Yeah, and like early on in that, he was able to catch him. But it's all about stopping his rhythm. You stop his rhythm, you're looking good because he gets flustered, and then he doesn't get that rhythm going again. You get him, but if you let him get going and then get to a certain point where he's so confident that he gets the combinations going very quickly, he'll be able to knock you out just because he has that confidence. Because his confidence is usually good or bad, depending on how the fight's going. Yeah. But for me, I think just at this point in their careers, I got Johnson by first round knockout. Really? I think he's going to get going. Okay. He has that left hand that people forget about when he hits you. Like he knocks you out. And Guida's chin hasn't been so good to him lately. So
I think that's a thing, though. I think with Guida, he's trained so much times with Alpha Male, right? So he's been out there in Cali working with those guys. And if you look at one of the guys that really knocked out Michael Johnson, you go to Josh Emmett. You remember that fight? I think it was Fight of the Night. And he works with Alpha Male too. So there's a strategy there. You can look back on it. And Michael Johnson's ground game, as good as it was kind of exposed with Khabib. And Khabib could expose everybody's ground game. I'm not saying that like Clay Guida is like a California Khabib. That's never going to happen. But I think Guida is so unconventional at times that he's going to disrupt the game plan for Michael Johnson, get in his head a little bit, just like Khabib did when he's laying on top of him, strangling him, telling Dana White, like, get this guy out of the octagon. I'm fighting your boy. I think he told Michael Johnson he doesn't deserve the fight. You know what I mean? When he wanted to fight Conor. So I still think Guida's he's going to outsmart Michael Johnson, who is a KG vet, but I think I'm going to give it to Guida still.
The only problem with Guida compared to Habib is Habib has that tactic that he always uses where he pressures you and gets you to move backwards, and then that's when he takes you down. He's mastered that, where he just keeps pressuring you because it's easier to take you down when you're already moving backwards compared to if you're moving forward. You can kind of defend it a little bit better.
Yeah, but even with Khabib, like, you know that he's going to take you down. Like, that's the game plan. Get away from Khabib's shoots. Like, if he's going to shoot in, you have to dodge it.
Yeah,
he's 30-0. You know what I mean?
That's why he's being paired up right now, potentially with GSP, because GSP is a similar type of guy where he pressures you backwards and then he takes you down. But with him, he's really good at defending it because he's done it so long. And that's why the only fight that intrigues him is that, or if somebody were to wow him, like the one guy that Habib had said that kind of like impressed him was Charles Oliveira.
Yeah,
but like I feel like that ship has sailed. I think if he would have been really wowed by him, he would have fought him by now, unless he's actually waiting to see Oliveira fight again and then see how that turns out. Because I think if Oliveira has like a dominant performance against, say, Michael Chandler or Dustin Poirier, I think Khabib could be like, okay, like I retired, but you talked me out of it with that dominant victory over a top 3 guy like that.
I think he just wanted to fight Conor.
I
think he just wanted to fight Conor. I think everybody was hoping Conor would beat Dustin, and when Conor lost, it kind of threw a kink in everything. And he said, you know what, nobody's intriguing. Like, Oliveira is a great option, but Oliveira, out of all those guys, is probably the most dangerous because he can dominate on his feet and on the ground. Yeah. Like, he's a multi-black belt. He's a monster.
He's a guy where if Habib takes him down, Habib could be scared because even though he took Olivier down, Olivier can find ways to submit him
throw
on the
from more
ground,
and
on his
from the
back.
bottom. Yeah.
He's great on his back. Whereas to me, McGregor, he has holes in his game right now where Habib could just be like, even if he won, he was like, I already beat him. It's the same McGregor. Like I could just take him down and then dominate. Whereas Olivier, I don't know about this guy because this guy has won eight fights in a row. It would be 9 if he were to win his next matchup against Poirier or Chandler or Gagey, whoever he fights next. And then that presents a challenge for him, like to get that 30th win against the guy that's riding a hot hand with 9 wins in a row. And then that would make money. Like people say that wouldn't make money, but when you have a guy on a 9-fight win streak, beating guys that Olivier would have beaten, he would have beaten Ferguson, who was a guy that's supposed to be the guy to match up great with Habib, and then one of these guys.
Yeah.
Just to get that shot. So, like, I wouldn't count out Olivier, but like just like you said, just to get back to this matchup a little bit before we got away from it for a couple minutes. Johnson, I don't think would fear Clay Guida's takedowns just like he did with Habib.
Oh yeah,
because Guida is kind of crazy with how he takes you down. He just rushes you. And with no game plan, just tries to overpower you, take you down. Habib pressures you backwards. It's kind of like a game plan. He pushes you forward, acts like he's going to punch you. Then when you move back because he's coming at you, then he takes you down.
Yeah.
But he doesn't go like a bull rush. He just does it because he gets you at your weakest point. So I think Johnson has the game plan of knowing what Guida's going to do. And then he's going to catch him as he's trying to do that because one punch will knock Guida out. Like that's all it takes now.
It'll be a fun fight.
Yep,
for sure.
But before we get to the co-main event, I want to play our promo video for our social media outlets. We're here at the Buzz.
Get the Lambo car, house in the hills with the stars. Told you I'd raise the bar. Told you that I go far. Oh, baby, it's crystal clear. Oh, I'm not a souvenir. Oh, I'm not an accessory. I'm a necessity. So come and check me out now. I'm a necessity. So come and check me out now.
And that's our social media promo. You can come check out the Buzz on all 3 of our social media outlets on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter under the handle WTB.com. That is WTB.com. Now, getting back into the fight night predictions, we got the co-main event here, which is going to be a pretty good one, which is going to be a bantamweight matchup between Frankie Edgar and Corey Sandhagen. Whoops, right there. In a matchup that could have limits to who possibly gets the next shot at the title after the Peter Yan matchup against Sterling. How do you see this going?
This was probably the toughest one for me because I never want to root against Frankie Edgar. Jersey's own. I've seen him fight so many times, but he's 2-3 in his last 5. The last 3, he's got 3 wins by decision. He's a grinder. We know that. Longest time in the octagon, right? He hasn't fought since August, whereas Corey Sandhagen has fought more recently when he knocked out Marlon Moraes. 4-1 is in his last 5.
Dominated that matchup.
Yeah, he really did. Moraes, he was one of those guys that as soon as he was in there, he had that knockout knee to Sterling, right? That's one of the things you remember him. And then he goes up there and he's fighting everybody. I'm going to go Corey Sandhagen just because he's lengthy, he's on a roll, and he's got that taste of defeat, right? So if he goes with Yan, if he matches up with Yan and Yan beats Sterling, that's a new opponent for him. But he also wants to get back at Sterling for the last fight. I think it was a knee bar submission. So I'm gonna go with Sandman for sure. I'm gonna go knockout. because we've seen when Frankie goes against strikers like Korean Zombie and Brian Ortega, his chin's a little more fragile than it used to be.
This matchup intrigued me, and then I thought it was going to be. When I first looked at it, I was like, "This is going to be a close fight." I look at the odds the other day, and it's heavy favorite to Sandhagen. Like I think it was like minus 400, and I look at it, I'm like, "How is this a heavy favorite to him?" I know he's been dominant, but Frankie Edgar's Frankie Edgar. I know he's just like you said, 2-3 in his last 5 fights, but he's still always a tough matchup in his fights. He always makes it a hard victory to where I would think that they would at least make it minus at the highest minus 200, but that minus 400 means they think it's going to be an easy victory. And when the more I dived into it, I look at it and I see we know Edgar, kind of like Greg Guida at the stage of his career. He's a grinder as well. And then he used to have a great chin. And then he would take you down and ground and pound you. But then he had power in his striking. He's kind of lost some of that muster. He still does the takedown, but then just like you said, his chin has gotten kind of fragile lately. He was able to beat in his last matchup. He was able to beat Munoz, but Munoz is more so wrestling and then get the takedown, and then he can hit you in the when you're standing up. But he doesn't have that much power. Corey Sandhagen has power in his striking. What Edgar needs to do in this fight is go for the takedown early and try and get that going, because if you get the fight on the ground, you're going to get Sandhagen out of his element. Where he wants to stand up. He's really good with the striking. He's really good. He's added leg kicks to his arsenal, but it's that punch that has the difference maker in this fight. Sandhagen has a little bit of height too, which could be interesting because Edgar's kind of small. In my opinion, he looks kind of small, but then he's just that underdog mentality that he has where. When you feel like he's gonna lose, he just goes out there and he gets the victory. But with this, Sandhagen is 11 years younger, so he's gonna have more of the gas in the tank, and I feel like he's gonna get the striking going early, keep Edgar from get the takedowns. But I still feel like this is gonna be a decision victory by Sandhagen, because I feel like Edgar always manages to last in fights and then grinds them out. Even if it doesn't go to his way victory wise, he's still going to last in his fight, but he's going to lose. I still have this by Sandhagen by decision victory.
Frankie Edgar finds a way to win decisions. I think his last 3 wins were all by decision. He finds a way to grind it out, like you said, but he also finds a way to score points. He's a very good point fighter. Sandhagen needs to strike early, use that range. It's very similar to what we were talking about with Askar and Stamen, where Askar needs to set the perimeter, set the distance, and kind of put the wrestler on guard.
Yeah.
And say, like, listen, you come in here, you might catch a knee. I might drop down and put you in a guillotine, something like that. They really need to set the tone. And I think that Sandhagen needs to strike early because Frankie, like I said, point fighter, he'll grind you out. And if he gets on top of you, he's not going to let up.
Yeah, I could see Sandhagen, instead of trying to go for the striking right away and go for that shot, I could kind of see Sandhagen keep distance, move around, keep Edgar from doing anything early, feel him out, and then use leg kicks here and there, and then go in, because I feel like Edgar is going to pick and choose his takedown, but he's going to try and close the gap. He's going to want to close the gap to keep those shots from being connected well, because if they're right in front of each other, it's not going to be a big strike or anything. They're going to be too close for that. And Edgar could use that to his advantage, where they get up close and he pushes him towards the cage and kind of just grinds him his energy down, make him use energy defending that.
Sandhagen's so good in the clinch too. You know what I mean? The dirty boxing, use of elbows, knees. His knees are deadly. It's kind of like what we're going to talk about with Volkov too. Like if Sandhagen gets you with a knee, like it could be lights out. And if Sandhagen starts with early calf kicks, you know, kind of hobbles Edgar a little bit, it could be all she wrote.
Yeah, it's just a matter of what Frankie Edgar we get this fight. Is it one that we're be able to grind out, or is it one that we're get caught early and then get finished?
Yeah, he's got 5 months of downtime.
Yeah,
5 months of training.
Yeah, because from what I saw from Sandhagen in the Marlon Moraes fight, boom, all it took was one shot. That's all it took. It was a really nice shot. And he had him down. And it wasn't even a strike. I believe it wasn't like a leg kick. It
was a wheel kick, I believe.
Yeah. And then he was out. 2 minutes, I think it was 2 minutes into the fight.
Is this if I'm not mistaken, this is the second time Frankie's fought at this weight class currently, right? First one, he made his debut against Munoz, and
Munoz
he showed out.
What was that?
He showed out against Munoz. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because but when I saw those guys, there were similar styles, him and Munoz, but Munoz got away from his game, and then Edgar used that, and then he got his game going first.
Yeah,
and then he was using the takedowns, but then he was getting the striking going. I was surprised to see how fluid his striking was against Munoz. You're not going to have that same luck against Sandhagen.
No, not at all. Sandhagen's he's a big bantamweight. He's a lanky bantamweight.
Yeah, then I see Sandhagen taking this and then waiting on the Jan Sterling matchup later next month to see who he gets to face, because I only assume that Sandhagen would get that first shot at either of them.
I don't think so.
Oh, you don't? Who do you think gets it?
I think TJ does.
You think TJ does?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh,
he only wants championship fights, and I think suspension's up soon, if not already.
I think April.
Okay, so Jan and Sterling fight in March, I believe, right? Late March. So they're not going to be ready for April, obviously. So that's going to be International Fight Week the next time they fight, if at the earliest. So if Sandhagen wins now, TJ comes back in April. I see the number one contenders being TJ Dillashaw and Sandhagen. If Sandhagen wins,
I was gonna say the worst case scenario for Sandhagen would be that he would get a matchup after this against Dillashaw, just for the fact I don't think Dillashaw gets that title shot right away. I think Dana White will be like, you've been gone for 2 years. Yes, you were a champion, but then you lost.
And he also cheated.
Yeah, he lost.
That's the thing. Like, if he had just lost, got tore his ACL or something, and came back, I'd say, all right, give him number one contendership, let him go get his rematch. He cheated, and he had to pay 2 years of his fighting career. So the
only saving grace was he admitted it after it came out, and then he apologized. He didn't hide from it. He took it like a man and took the suspension.
Yeah, but he shouldn't be rewarded for fessing up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's why a combination of that and then being out of the game for 2 years, I feel like there'll be like you gotta get this win, this one victory here to get that title shot. They'll be like, we know you're a top 3 fighter in the weight class, but you need to get that win to jump over to get that title shot. You need to prove to us that you're still in shape. And then they're able to go. So I see him coming back in April. Maybe they'll be like, we're going to give you a couple months to train. We're not going to let you do a couple weeks. We want you to do a couple months, considering the title fight with Jan Sterling is in March. I'll say like May or June. They'll be like, okay, Sandhagen wins. It'll be you and Sandhagen. The winner of that fight will get the winner of Jan Sterling, and then that'll be a thing in, say, maybe August, September, or September. That'll be a perfect time in September, when they usually go back to Fight Island, with how this back and forth has been going between Fight Island and then UFC Apex.
Yeah, I think, if I'm not mistaken, last time Sandhagen fought Moraes, he called out Dillashaw at the end.
Yep.
So that's the fight to make.
Yeah,
But I would also, if this goes quick, either way, whoever wins this fight should get Dillashaw next, right?
yeah.
But if this is a quick fight, and let's say Sandhagen walks away unscathed, put him as the reserve for Aljo and Peter.
Oh yeah, definitely because he'll be giving it quickly, kind of like what just happened with the rumor has it with Chandler beating Hooker. He kind of came out unscathed in that. Like it lasted a few minutes, but he was able to hit him and then boom,
Yeah,
in and
Hooker
out
didn't
3 minutes.
do anything.
And then they came out and said that there's a rumor that they gave him a fight next week. But the guy that he was supposed to fight declined it. Didn't give out any names, Olivier. But
Either him or Gaethje.
yeah, I don't think Gaethje would have declined it because he hasn't been fighting. Whereas Olivier
depends
kind
on
of
what the motivation is. I
Yeah.
feel like with the top four right there, because the belt's probably going to be relinquished soon, they don't want to take any fights. Just remember when Valentina was supposed to fight Calderwood,
Yeah.
and then Valentina gets hurt, right? So JoJo goes up and takes Maya, and she loses viciously to Maya, and now she's got to climb her way up. Even after this huge win at the last pay-per-view against Jessica Ai, Dana White wouldn't commit to her being the next title fight. So you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's that classic. Do I wait a year or do I get a fight just to keep on going? The initiative, like you have to outweigh. If I wait, I could wait so long that I could lose that luster and that hot streak.
Yeah.
But if I fight and I lose, I'm not guaranteed that shot anymore because I lost.
Yeah, it's a lose-lose because if you just sit there and you wait to find out what's going on with the belt, you get hungry people who are going to fight like Kevin Holland. We talked about him earlier, right? If he continues to pull fights together and wins together, who's to say he's not jumping up into a title contention before people who are ranked 1, 2, 3 ahead of him? It's the same thing with Kazmat, right? He's going up to fight Leon Edwards.
I was just about to pull his name out of my pocket for after you said Holland, because Holland he fought I think 6 times.
I think so. I think it was 6.
6 times this year, and then Kamsat Chimaev fought I think 4 times, and then Figueiredo fought I think 5 times.
And then Kazmat gets number 3 in the rankings. He went from unranked to Leon Edwards.
You see, everybody looks at that fight and thinks, how does he go being the 14th ranked guy in the division, and then he automatically gets to jump up and fight the number 3 ranked guy? People forget you got Usman, who's the champion. He's fighting Burns. He's ranked number 2. Covington just fought a little while ago. He's ranked number 1. He's been rumored to fight Masvidal, who's ranked number 4.
Yeah, I think they're waiting for Tough Enough for that. Or
you're waiting on that. Edwards hasn't fought in almost 2 years.
But that's because of COVID.
That's because of COVID, and because he declined the fight against Usman that they gave to Burns. It was offered to Edwards first, but he declined it. So because he hasn't fought in 2 years, they've let him keep that number 3 status. But in reality, I feel like he's lost rank because he hasn't fought. He's been stagnant.
Yeah.
So I feel like he's more like 8, 9, or 10, and they want to test Chimaev out because he's been dominant in his fights. So dominant where they either last short or he just demolishes his competition.
Yeah, like
they want to see where he's at, and then they can be like, oh yeah, he's 14 going against 3, but the 3 ranked guy hasn't fought in 2 years, so we can kind of use that leeway to test him out. Because if he wins that and does it convincingly, he jumps up all the way from 14 to the top 5.
If he wins that, he gets a title shot.
I don't know.
Dana loves him.
He loves him, but
if
say you book
he's a money
Covington and Masvidal, and Covington dominates Masvidal, You still think Chimop jumps over Covington, who's
I
ranked
do.
number 1?
I do.
No,
I do.
I don't think so.
Who do you think brings more pay-per-view vibes?
Covington,
No, I don't think so.
because
His
his
shtick
mouth.
is over. His shtick is over.
It's not over because he dominated Usman in that matchup, and then he got knocked out in the 5th round.
Yeah, Covington's going to fight Michael Chiesa.
Huh?
Covington's going to fight Michael Chiesa, I think. That's a better fight than I know the
I
bad
think he
blood
will.
between Masvidal.
I think he will if Masvidal doesn't agree to a fight.
Yeah.
Like Covington's waiting.
Do you think they're waiting for Ultimate Fighter?
That'd be waiting too long because you don't know
It's coming out this year.
What was that?
It's coming out this year. They said 2021.
But when in 2021?
Let's say summer.
So you film it. Are they filming it in the summer, or are they going to film it now and then have it released by the summer?
I'd imagine film it now, like in the spring, and shoot it for the summer, and you have Colby and Jorge.
Yeah, but then if you go by that rate, Covington would not have fought since the fall, so it will be almost a year between fights for him.
Same thing with Masvidal.
Masvidal, yeah.
He fought before Covington.
Yeah, he fought in July.
So it'll be longer. So they'll both be fresh. They both hate each other. They're both
I just feel like doing that, like if they make more money, a lot more money than that, they probably would do it. But I feel like that they should get in as soon as possible by the summer. They should be fighting by the summer.
I agree.
That's what I feel like. If they fight by the summer, that would be at least be worth it. Because then they'll be like, okay, 6 months. We just filmed right now. We start filming in March, April filming, and then because you start training in April, and then you be ready by June, July at the latest. Yeah. I can dig that. I can do that. But to wait until September, October to fight, that's a little too long for them.
Yeah, I think the whole ranking system. And I'm not going to hijack the show on my agenda because we've got to talk these two studs about to kill each other in the main event. But I think the ranking system's a little broken. Where you said it perfectly, there's stagnation. There's so many fighters who just sit there. Conor was ranked number 4, right? Dan Hooker, Paul Felder, all these guys are just continuously fighting every time their name is called. Conor doesn't fight for 2 years. He's still 4. Now he's 6. But like. Leon Edwards too. If you're not hurt, you should, and you're declining fights, you should lose your ranking. Like Nate Diaz was ranked for the longest time, and he fought like every leap year.
I think McGregor, that was kind of like an odd situation because he fought last year. He beat Don Cerrone. Yeah, and then after that, Cerrone moved up.
Yeah, but he retired.
No, Cerrone's fighting in May.
No, but Conor retired, and he's still ranked.
He retired, but he retired because of a situation where he wanted to be a main event pay guy, and then Dana White wasn't willing to do that. But he had just main evented against Cerrone and knocked him out in the first minute or two, and then after that, you kind of have to feel like take McGregor's side because he just won in a main event. Pay-per-view in 1 minute with the shoulder shrug. How are you going to not give him another main event? How are you going to book him down on the card? All he wanted was the main event status on a fight against whoever he was fighting next, and Dana wouldn't budge for the longest time until this fight, and then he lost. So now he loses that.
I think the fight that Conor wanted was against Diego Sanchez. Because like there was those leaked DMs where it's like I want to fight Diego Sanchez, and Dana's like, I'm not going to put that on main event because first of all, Sanchez doesn't even have a coach anymore. He's got like a shaman in his corner, who's like throwing crystals into the corner, and he's going out there and he's Diego Sanchez. I think this next fight should be his last fight when he fights Cowboy.
I was gonna say it's kind of funny that it comes right back around to Cowboy.
It always comes back to Cowboy
because he's going to be the one who fights Diego Sanchez in May.
Yep.
But now that we're done that big rant, which was a good one,
that's what I'm good for.
Yeah, we're moving on to the main event of UFC Fight Night tomorrow, which is a heavyweight matchup between Alistair Overeem and Alexander Volkov, which we got right here. Alistair Overeem is a 47-18 record, which is crazy that he's fought that much.
Yeah.
And then Alexander Volkov is 31-8. You got similar reach advantage. Volkov is 15 pounds lighter, but then he has a 3-inch height advantage. How do you see this going?
This is the tough one, man. I like both of these fighters, and this is an outcome that whoever wins, I'm excited for. I just want them to have fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it could go either way. You and I were talking before about Overeem's chin, and it was kind of exposed with Francis, that brutal uppercut. Volkov, every time I want to pull for him, he puts up like a very lackluster performance, like when he fought Greg Hardy. I thought he was going to walk through Greg Hardy, and that went to a decision. And Greg Hardy had like 4 fights in the UFC, if not 4 fights ever.
Yeah.
And he took it to a decision. I'm going to go with the Reem here because I think he's riding high, 4-1 last 5, all TKOs. He's got 34 first-round finishes. He's a monster. He just has to avoid the deadly knees from Alexander Volkov.
Those deadly knees will get
They're
you.
crazy.
I'm looking at Volkov's last 6 fights, actually 7. He beat Roy Nelson by decision. He beat Stefan Struve by TKO. He beat Fabricio Verdum by KO. Then he had that fight where he lost to Derek Lewis and lost by a KO in the 3rd round. And then I think that was the one where Derek Lewis was gassed out and then he lucked out the win.
Yeah, that was a late round knockout.
Yeah, that was on the Habib McGregor card.
That was a good fight.
I think it was the 3rd fight where he fell. Derek Lewis fell down and was so tired that he couldn't get up for the post fight commentary. And then I think after that was the Greg Hardy decision victory.
Yeah, and then he lost the Blades, right?
Then he lost the Blades when Blades called his shot and said he was going to win by knockout, but then he didn't hit him one bit and had 15 takedowns.
That was
15.
That fight was so boring.
Yeah,
so
because
boring.
it was like Dana White said, it was a quintessential John Fitch fight. If he wanted guys to do that, John Fitch would still be in the UFC. But you get a guy that just goes up, takes you down, and then just keeps you down, and then just gets back up, reset, takedown. Did that 15 times, and what made it worse was he called his shot before the fight and saying he was going to knock him out, and then he didn't.
Yeah.
I think he hit him like maybe a couple of times. And then it sucked for Volkov because his takedown defense was bad.
Yeah.
It was just bad. He got taken down. There's nothing he could do. But then he come back against a guy that was pretty decent with a takedown game in Walt Harris, but he knocked him out. And like if the first round, you had a thing with Walt Harris is he shoots his shot early on. He goes out, he can hit you and beat you up, but he shot his shit early, and then Volkov took advantage of that. By the 2nd round, he was like, "I got this," and knocked him out with the combination of kicks and punches.
Yeah, Walt Harris is a common opponent for both of these guys. They both knocked out Walt Harris, but both of those fights came right after Walt Harris's stepdaughter was killed. So he hasn't been the same since then. So I don't know, not taking away wins from these two guys. They were very impressive wins, but you're going up against a man whose head might not be 100% into the game. And he has funeral costs and all this stuff, and he's got to grieve. And he goes in there and he's trying to make a living. So it's very tough. The thing that stands out about these two fighters is that reach. 80 inches for both of them.
Yeah.
And Volkov usually towers over everybody except for Struve. And I think Reem 6'4", he's a little bit shorter than I am. I'm right in between the both of them, 6'5". Yeah. But I feel like Reem is just, he's a big 6'4". He's going to come in like 270.
Yeah, and then right before I get to how I feel it's going to go, I look at Overeem's last 6, 7 fights, all by knockout. Every
Mhm.
single one, win or
Yep.
loss. He lost to Francis Ngannou and Blades back to back by knockout.
Mhm.
You have Pavlovich and Alexei Olenek that he won by knockout. He lost by knockout in the 5th round to Rosenstruck, which he dominated that fight, and then Rosenstruck snuck out a
Yeah.
miracle victory like Silva against Sonnen in the 5th
Yep.
round in the last minute
Yep.
with the haymaker and caught him. By that time, Overeem was gassed. He should have just stayed away from and then just clinched him, but he got hit, and Rosenstruck miraculously won that. But then he came back and beat Harris by TKO, and then he beat Sakai by TKO. It was in a pretty good fight, main event back in September, which I really liked.
It was a good fight.
I thought Sakai was going to win, and then Overeem picked it up. So every chance that he would get either like a win streak or losing streak started like 2-2, it would always go in the opposite direction. He had 2 wins, and then he'd lose 2 losses, and then he would win 2 wins. Like he never gets that big win streak going in the UFC, except for from 2014 to 2016, where he had 4-fight win streak.
Yeah.
Where he thought he was going to go for the title. The way I see this is a big thing in this fight is Overeem's glass straw. He's just like I said, every fight has never gone to decision. It's always been a finish in his fights because it's either he's finishing somebody or somebody is finishing him. Like he's prone to a big shot that just gets him knocked out. He just doesn't. He can't stand it anymore with how long he's been fighting. I think he's shown his wear and tear with his chin. I feel like this is going to be a perfect, short fight for Alexander Volkov to where he could get him with a leg kick or a punch, and then get him in the right spot early to knock him down. Because it's going to just take one of those. And I have a funny feeling it's going to be a leg kick. He's just going to whip out and then surprise Overeem in the first couple of minutes. And it's going to be a 2-minute first round knockout by Volkov.
Wow. I'm going Overeem, man. I think we forget how deadly this man is. And if he goes out on a leg kick, he's a K1 kickbox champion, Cage Warriors, all that stuff. Like, I feel like if he goes out, he should just retire on a leg. If it's a leg kick, man, that's your bread and butter. I'm gonna throw a wrench into the ring. What if he goes to the ground and submits Volkov? He hasn't had a submission win since 2009. So I would love to see that, but I think it's again. I agree with you. It's going to be a quick fight, 100%. This is a turn it on. Don't go to the bathroom. Don't warm up any soda or any snacks. Don't get a coffee or whatever. Set your alarm. You're gonna watch it the first round. It's over. You go to bed early. But then again, this could go 5 rounds. And it's just be counter striking the whole time. So I'm going Reem. You're going Volkov, man. That's I can't wait for this fight because we're just gonna be texting back and forth.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I'll be watching this tomorrow easily because it's gonna get me ready for next week for UFC 258. I'm looking forward to that. But this is just gonna hold me over until then. But before we get ready to go, of course, today's Friday, February 5th. A little bonus fight that I want to just mention before we get going is the debut in bare knuckle for Paige Van Zandt.
I was going to ask you about this. I didn't know if we had enough time.
Against Hart. Do you have any comments on that before I give my opinion on that?
Oh man, I don't know about Paige Van Zandt doing this. I was worried about her going into this. I know she's a fighter. She's badass. Yeah. She'll do what she wants. But this is a whole different ball game. I think Britain Hart's going to knock her out.
You could say I'm crazy all you want, but I think it's going to go in the completely opposite direction. I
Okay.
think Hart is getting too pumped up just because she's been there. She's trying to scare Paige Van Zant, but just look at it. A thing that's been hurting Paige Van Zant when she was in the UFC was her takedown defense.
Yeah.
She doesn't have to worry about that now.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, you're right.
It's going to be stand up, no gloves, and I feel like she's getting paid. I feel like she's in the main event, the big bare knuckle card. She's going to be motivated. She wants to come in with a bang, show everybody what she's worth. If that weigh-in that they just had yesterday was any notion, I don't know what is. Her coming in there, getting in Hart's face, and then Hart going, "You don't know what you're doing. Know the rules first before you step into a bare knuckle with me. I'm gonna knock you out." And then Paige just smiles at her. She just smiles.
It was a
and
whole
goes,
different side of Paige.
Yeah.
You know, we're used to her like dancing with Karate Hottie up there. You know what I mean? Hugging Amanda Hebus. Now she's mad dogging Hart. It was crazy.
I'm calling her hero Paige now. That's what I'm calling
Paige.
her.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a follow-up question about that. So do you think she wins this fight, right? You're going with she wins this. Do they feed her to Rawlings right after that? And because bad blood, UFC versus UFC, who's the biggest dog in the yard, right?
Yeah.
Rawlings is a monster in bare knuckle now.
She is. I could see them doing that.
Okay.
But I could also see them do one more fight before you get to that if she were to win this, because
I would hope so.
Because they don't want to shoot their shot with Paige Van Zandt early unless she loses right away, and then that luster just goes away. They want to milk her for all the money they can.
Yeah.
And their hope is that she wins this, and then they could be like, okay, this person, you got to get to the gatekeeper before you get to her Rollins.
Yeah.
Then she does that, wins, and then she gets the Rollins. So she has that 2-fight win streak, and then goes into it, and it's like, boom, you make more money that way. But like, there's ways where that could just blow up in their face, but where she could win and then fight Rollins and then make a little bit more money. But it's the build up that they want. They want that build up after sign, or kind of like what I feel like they're gonna wind up doing with the Chandler in the UFC, because Chandler's making so much money that they could feed him right to Poirier right away because of how he won. But then, what if he loses? Like, I don't know with how packed that division is. They want to play that card smart. They want, because they're paying him so much. They don't want him to lose and then be like, oh, we're paying him all that money and he's 1-1 in his first 2 fights.
Yeah. Are you a fan of the tournament, like the Grand Prix tournaments?
Oh, I love the Grand Prix tournaments.
So
I love him. That's
would
how
you want UFC to do that?
Yes, I eventually want them to do it. That's how Daniel Cormier got popular in Strikeforce.
Yeah.
He was an alternate in the heavyweight tournament because he's always been a light. He was going between heavyweight and light heavyweight. He moved up to heavyweight. He's a small guy, but he's big, and he won the tournament. And then that's what got him recognized, built his fame, was basically through that. And then he came over to the UFC. Start out in heavyweight, knocking guys out, but he was small. So he was like, let me move down. I got my wrestling background. I can use that, but I'll lose a little bit of my power in my striking. He dominated the light heavyweight division minus John Jones, which was kind of like sketchy because John Jones tested positive both fights with steroids. So that kind of marred that. So then Cormier moved back up, got that power again, but then was like 3-2 or something in his 5 fights at heavyweight after winning the title. So
I think 155 is the right division to do that at. To start the format right there. Let those killers go at it.
That would be perfect. Like I said this on the Cage by Q on Monday. The way I see it is, I want Poirier versus Olivier, Chandler Gage, and then you can do McGregor Diaz 3, which is the perfect time to do that trilogy because they're both not in title contention. Conor lost in the second round to Poirier. It looked bad doing so. Then Diaz hasn't fought in over, I feel like, a year and a half.
Yeah.
So it'd be a perfect time to do their trilogy and get it out of the way and make the money with that.
Yeah.
And then see whoever wins, whoever loses, probably like, okay, retires or whatnot because of losing that matchup.
Yeah,
That's how I feel with that going. And then a little sneakiness is don't miss out on Dos Anjos back in lightweight, because I think he could be a player in the future. Come back down to that division again.
Absolutely. I mean, you also have Hooker if he's still going to fight, and you have Ferguson. You match those two up, they'd go pretty well with each other as well.
The rumor is it's going to be Ferguson and Hooker fighting, and then to get one of them back on the right direction.
Yeah, I'm glad Hooker's still fighting, because when he put his gloves in the middle of the octagon, I thought he was done. But he's got to sacrifice 2 months of quarantine to see his family. I get it.
Yeah, that's scaring me. But before I play the promo video for Buzz's schedule for the week, I just want to do a shout out to the Cage My IQ fans. If give me your comments, give us a shout out of your fight picks for tomorrow night. And if you beat my picks, I'm going to post them right on the Cage My IQ Twitter account. If you beat my picks, I'll give you a shout out on Monday's show where we do the UFC 258 predictions. I'll give you a shout out. So send me a DM on the Cage My IQ Twitter with your picks, and then we'll see how you do compared to mine. If you beat mine, I will give you a shout out. But you saw my picks. Here's the video for the Buzz schedule for the week.
War. Tell them that's what we ready for. War. Tell them that's what we ready for. War. Bringing that to competitors. Till we see the confetti fall, be ready for war. Tell them that's what we ready for. War. Tell them that's what we ready for. War. Bringing that to competitors. Till we see the confetti fall, be ready for war. Tell them I'm ready, any opponent. The crown heavy and every minute is chosen. A path only fit for kings, and you all know what this court means. What did you enlist for? If it isn't getting more rings, then you gon' have to switch your team. Trust me, it gets more mean. I'm a nightmare going up against your dreams. First step is explosive like a bomb hit. Bet if I let it fly, I cannot miss. And you ain't got a chance at the top 10 when you getting clamped all night by your locksmith. On the block throwing lobs to my top bigs. I'm a chef, no look, what's the top dish? Tie game, through the pressure as the clock ticks. Crossover, step back, hit a shot, swish. Tell them that's what we ready for. Tell them that's what we ready for. Bringing that to competitors. Till we see the confetti fall, be ready for war. This is how champions are made, but it never happens in a day. It's all hard work, but it's why what happens when we play 9 out of 10 times. I'ma left you.
And that is the schedule for the week. We have over 10 live podcasts on during the week, going from Monday to Sunday, going through all the sports plus MMA plus. We just brought back Whiskey Cinema, where they review certain movies and TV stuff. They do different things for that, which this week they're doing Denzel Washington movies where they'll talk that. And last Sunday they did Netflix originals, and they talked about all their favorite movies and shows from Netflix, which was a nice show. So check all of our content out. And then on Cage My IQ, don't forget to turn in this Monday, 8 o'clock Eastern time once again for our UFC 258 preview show with me, Miles, and Sam. And before we get ready to go, you want to do any shout outs or anything?
Sure. If you're on social media, which you probably are after listening to us and watching us, follow Active Geek Podcast and Galaxy Wars Podcast on all social medias, and subscribe on all podcast directories.
And once again, don't hesitate to go on Twitter or Facebook or anything to find Active Geek and subscribe to his pages, support his Active Geek production. They're a great little company. They put out great content. I listen to it weekly, as should you. And then don't forget to subscribe to Cage My IQ's Twitter. And once again, check us out every Monday at 8 o'clock Eastern time for your MMA UFC coverage. And then other than that, we are out. Thank you for joining me for this impromptu fight night prediction show.
Thanks for having me, man. I love
And
talking
then
MMA.
everybody have a great weekend, and then enjoy the great coverage between Bare Knuckle tonight and then UFC tomorrow.
That's right.